You know the drill. You need experience to get a job, but you need a job to get experience. So most people in data science are doing projects to fill that hole in their CV. But some projects will place your CV right in the bin. Let's talk about it. Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Jesper. I'm a scientist for machine learning and I have a PhD in applied machine learning to geoscience. In data science, learning by doing is really key. Today, we'll talk about projects that cost you jobs. So first we'll talk a little bit about how projects actually are important, and then go into projects that are too simple, go on to projects that have questionable ethics, go to projects where the question isn't really clear, and then go to projects where your skills aren't really showcased enough. And those should really be the projects where you have to be careful not to include them on your resume or explain them better. The internet is full of advice about how you have to learn more and more about data science and statistics and this and that. And while that is true, in my experience, project experience is really valuable. A lot of companies are looking for someone that has experience touching data and really being able to transform data and explore data and really extract the information within. So while everything else is also important, it's very valuable to have project experience. If you're looking to get hired at top companies, you usually need a portfolio of projects that you can point to. And those projects should usually be related to the work that that company already does. Because then you can basically talk to them about what you already know and how you can hit the ground running. So, for example, if you have a certain data set and in your data science project you need to build a certain machine learning algorithm, that means you already know how to do these things and how to fit everything together, like how to pre-process your data, what kind of limitations are on your machine learning algorithms, and how to kind of deal with the outputs. And this can really show your value to a company like this. The project is also a great way to show them how you learn and how you work in a team, especially if it's like in a hackathon situation. You can really point to how you work under stress with other people together and talk about how you would integrate this in the company culture. We all start out somewhere. Many of us start with the Titanic dataset or build a small neural network to predict the MNIST handwritten digit dataset. We try out the wine dataset and do some unsupervised classification on that. And there's no shame in that. Those are good starting projects. I myself started out with the MNIST dataset. I built a neural network from scratch and it really piqued my interest in machine learning, and see where I am now. However, if you consider these as machine learning experience, as project experience, then, well, there's a problem, because most of these problems are considered solved, so they don't really showcase your skills. If you demonstrate a novel approach on these kind of problems, so really use it as an educational tool, that may be an exception. Like Santiago Valderrama has used these to show contrastive learning on the MNIST dataset, and it's really interesting and easy to follow because you are already familiar with the problem and you're already familiar with how well a machine learning algorithm is supposed to do on these problems. As a ground rule, basically, if it's in the Kaggle playground, then it should not be on your CV. In that same vein of simple projects, you will not be able to pass off capstone projects from coursework anymore. Like, for example, Andrew Ng's course. A lot of people have done that before. You used to be able to, you can't anymore, because basically everyone has taken that course at the moment, and every recruiter knows the projects that you get out of that kind of capstone. Now, don't get me wrong, those are valuable experiences and you can list them under your coursework, but don't try to pass them off as individual project work where you are self-driven and develop your own questions, because recruiters will catch on to this and it will shed a negative light on your CV. And it's really important at this point to realize in the initial screenings, recruiters are simply looking for a reason to screen you out, because they get so many resumes, so many CVs, so many people are applying, and it's really hard. So at the beginning, you mine negatively. You just throw out what's kind of dodgy, kind of, I don't know, and you only leave the creme de la creme. And well, with those kind of projects, you are likely in the discard pile. There are many projects that sound interesting at first, but if your interviewers are ethically conscious, you can be in hot water with them. One super common and simple example is the iris dataset, which it's already on the too simple list, but in addition, it was created by a eugenicist. Not a great look. Face mask detection may seem like a really good project during COVID, but what is it used for? Karens don't care. Like, you can literally put a person there and they don't care. They will only yell at them. So in the end, this face mask detection will only be used by law enforcement at protests, possibly peaceful protests, to, well, reinforce power structures. Very questionable. In that same vein, crime prediction based on historical data may not shine a great light on your critical evaluation of information and research. While playing Sherlock Holmes may seem fun, dispatching law enforcement based on machine learning algorithms has been shown to disproportionately target low-income areas and historically disadvantaged groups. And this kind of behavior is not really something a lot of people that have studied ethics would find good. Most people with a conscience wouldn't find good. Big machine learning conferences like NeurIPS are now shifting and increasing their focus on the ethical impacts of papers. And so do a lot of companies, because working unethically can be very expensive, because you get less talent, you get a lot of publicity problems, so your marketing budget is for naught, and really a lot of companies will also see that if you can't see the problems of a project in historical policing, for example, or face mask detection, then maybe it's going to be harder to convey to you the nuances when you work with satellite data and trying to understand the system and the different influences if something as large as this social justice problem already evades you. So really, it's a good idea to not have these kind of things on your resume, and probably a good idea to not do them. Sometimes we start work on a fresh data set and we start with the exploration, and really we meander our way through a data set, and this can be really nice and it can also be valuable in this exploration, uncovering like hidden relationships in the data. But in a business, often you have to answer specific questions, and this is really important, because in your CV you should basically have the STAR method in mind, or really basically you want to have an initial question and you want an answer, and provide those in the project description so the recruiter knows exactly what this project is about and how you got to that goal and what you did to achieve that goal. This can often mean some hard choices, because this exploration is really interesting, but the final question that we settled on to answer often doesn't, well, need all that exploration. And that means not all avenues of exploration bear fruits. So we have to trim them down. In writing, we often say, kill your darlings, and that can be true in data science as well. So really focus down so you have a clear description. This problem can be twofold, and it stems from not having a clear goal. And you can sometimes find it on CVs or even in portfolios. Ask yourself these questions. How did you actually solve this problem? And how can you best describe this? And how does this relate to the job you're applying for. When you build a chatbot, for example, you can go into more details of the techniques, and you can, for example, talk about causal modeling or question-answer filtering and these kinds of things that are more transferable, and that make you stand out to a recruiter and make it more clear that you actually have the skills that they're asking for, rather than just said, build a chatbot. In the end, you really want to build a portfolio that is specific to the domain of expertise that you want to break into as a data scientist. You want to work in healthcare? Build a healthcare-related project. And yeah, of course, keep ethics in mind. If you already build a portfolio and it's rather generic, then you have to put a little work in your CV to really highlight how this relates to the job. There are many transferable techniques that you may have used in a different capacity than the job asks for, but you can work on your project description to really work out how this relates to the job and really set you apart in the hiring process.